We've got a lot to discuss on the MeidasTouch podcast. Let's talk about Donald Trump's disastrous trip to the United Kingdom, where he made the royal family play dress up for him while he was being protested in Windsor and London. Donald Trump was making an utter fool of himself in the UK. He also looked very sickly as well. His hand looked absolutely terrible. I've described it like putting his hand in a piranha tank at this point. We'll cover that. Melania was wearing like a flying saucer on her head. You couldn't even see her head. I'm not even sure what was going on there. So we'll talk about the trip. We'll talk about Donald Trump's FCC basically forcing ABC Disney and ABC Disney being compliant in firing Jimmy Kimmel. We'll go over what Jimmy Kimmel actually said, which I don't see anything offensive about it, like at all. And then you had these other corporations that carry the affiliate stations of ABC, companies like Nexstar and Sinclair, which require FCC approval for mergers and things like that, coming out with their own statements. Sinclair's like, you better publicly apologize, Jimmy Kimmel, to the Charlie Kirk family and give them a donation, or else we're going to take further action. I'm not sure what further action you could take. I mean, the guy basically got fired, and why would he be donating to the Charlie Kirk family? Well, what? Okay, let's talk about these hearings that took place in the House and Senate this week. You had Kash Patel going before first the Senate. I thought the House was far more effective with FBI Director Kash Patel. The Epstein survivors have responded to Kash Patel's just awful testimony that seemed like it was lie after lie after lie when Patel was asked, so how many times does Donald Trump's name appear in the files? I don't know. Is it one? I don't know. Is it 1,000? I don't know. Well, Kash, did you ever tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name was in it? Blah, 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 blah. Kash, you weren't speaking English there. What? I hate California. You're a fool. You're a fool. You're a fool. Like, what? What are you even talking? Can you answer the freaking questions, Kash? Oh, and then Kash Patel said that Epstein was a lone wolf. There was no other person that he trafficked to at all. It was just him, according to, it was just him and Ghislaine. That's it right now. Or even just him, according to Kash. Anyway, we'll break that down. Also, I think a hearing that deserved more attention. I covered it on the MeidasTouch Network before. I want to cover it on this show. Donald Trump's CDC director, Dr. Susan Monterez, who Trump fired. Well, she testified before the Senate about just how dangerous the health department is right now and how they're literally going to be killing Americans based on their anti-science, anti-medicine quackery. Then we learned today as well that they're now pushing out their recommendations for the MMR vaccine needed for measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox, that they are pushing out those recommendations against all science. Again, the quackery here is going to get lots of people killed. You had a bad report from the Federal Reserve, which did drop interest rates 25 basis points, but talked about how jobless claims are rising while we also have inflation rising, which is stagflation. That's not good. We'll talk about that and more on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. Brett and Jordy, good to see you. Brett, new dad, good to see you. Brett, glad you're here on the show. I know our audience was glad to see you last time.
It's been great to be back. I missed you guys that week I was gone, and it's our first actual show since I've been back where it's all three bros back together discussing the latest news. And boy, do we have a whole lot to discuss. I mean, things have taken, they've been very dark, but things have taken an extra dark turn, especially when it comes to free speech. I think a lot of people out there voted, their whole thing was cost of living, affordability, groceries. Well, not only do you have prices continuing to increase, but now you have the end of free speech. You have Donald Trump's face on banners on government buildings. You have vaccines being rolled back. You have just flat out authoritarianism in the United States. It's everything that we were screaming about, that this guy is not a businessman. This guy is a wrecking ball. What the hell are you doing? And unfortunately, all of our biggest concerns and perhaps even more have come to fruition in record time, only really about 8 or 9 months in. This is incredibly dangerous stuff that we are seeing. We are never going to back down here at the MeidasTouch Network. We will continue to tell the truth. We will continue with our independent reporting, and we will not be scared away by this regime. We're going to speak about it all. Jordy, it's great to have you back as well, man. What's the latest?
It is great to see you, B. Congrats to you. Congrats to your lovely wife, B. And I'm just so stoked to have a nephew, another nephew, or a first nephew. I have a niece by Ben, nephew by Brett. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled for you and your wife, Brett. So excited to get into today's show. We have a lot to cover. Benji, where we started?
Two housekeeping matters. Number one, next Monday, right after our live show ends, so sometime around 6:15 Pacific, 9:15 Eastern, we will be on our Patreon doing a Zoom chat meeting with our patrons. So if you ever wanted to meet me, Brett, and Jordy and ask us questions, we're going to be doing a 45-minute Power 45, where you can ask us any question at all. Power 45, I'm going to call it.
Sounds like a workout routine.
Power 45. Nothing is off limits. You could ask us any questions at all. We hope you'll join us there. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We'd love to meet you. It helps grow this independent media platform. And another housekeeping item, hit subscribe to this YouTube channel. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. It's free to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Okay, let's first talk about what Donald Trump just said moments ago while he was on Air Force One. So you had lots of people in MAGA trying to claim now, oh, this isn't a free speech thing. This was just ABC, Disney. They just all of a sudden said that they didn't like Jimmy Kimmel's ratings. It had nothing to do with anything that they claiming that Jimmy Kimmel said, or just ignore the fact that Sinclair put out a statement saying that they were going after Jimmy Kimmel because of what they claimed he said about Charlie Kirk. I'm going to read you what Kimmel said in a moment. Just forget that Nexstar wanted a merger with Tegna, its main rival, to allow it to basically aggregate the most local stations in the entire country, and that it needs a waiver to exceed the 39% ownership ceiling that the FCC would give it if you just give Donald Trump a little quid pro quo. So just ignore all of the actual facts and data out there. This was about the ratings. That's what they tried to push, because even right-wing media, I think, was starting to realize, wow, this is a pretty fascist precedent that could come back and actually hurt us. But then Donald Trump on Air Force One's like, nah, you can't criticize me. If you are getting licenses from the federal government, you can't criticize me. You can't hit Trump. You can't hit Trump. This is what he literally said. You can't hit Trump if you want to work with the federal government. Here, play this clip.
Look, that's something that should be talked about for licensing, too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and you take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democrat Party. Thank you, everybody.
Says they're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democratic Party. I can't express enough how dangerous it is to see the President of the United States so thin-skinned, such a fragile ego, where you go after late night comics. Now, what did Jimmy Kimmel say? I want to read it for you, but first, I'll just show you a small taste, and you all know this, of what the Republican senators and Congress members and social media influencers have been saying. This is a war. This is a leftist. The guy was transgender who did the shooting. Oh, the bullet was transgender. Oh, the roommate was transgender. Oh, furry. There was something about the furry idea, furry transgender leftists. They are doing it. Like, none of that's accurate. It was just a 22-year-old guy from a Trump gun-toting, his mom Amber called him a gun-toting family, MAGA family, religious family, and the guy got down a rabbit hole of internet vile behavior and acted in a manner that is reprehensible and should be condemned, and we should call it out, and it's the worst type of situation imaginable. But immediately, before anyone knew any details, MAGA was saying leftist, this is war. This is a civil war. Round them up. I mean, MeidasTouch did a graphic where we showed not like Twitter randos or TikTok random people, randos, like real leaders of the party who have been out there saying this. So here's Senator Roger Marshall, an actual United States senator, MAGA Republican. Here's what he has to say. Let's play.
And we are just committed to fulfilling his mission going forward. So, the libs that killed Charlie Kirk, we're not done yet. We're going to honor his life and fulfill his mission and bring life to his long-term mission here.
Yeah.
The libs that killed Charlie Kirk. In an earlier video I did today, I showed former President Obama after the Charleston shooting singing Amazing Grace, and then making sure this is a time of mourning and healing. We must pray and come together. This does not reflect who America is. This is not a time to blame people for politics. Let's figure out solutions, if that's common sense gun reform. That was Obama's response, not this leftist radicals. So here's what Kimmel actually said. And I can't play the clip for copyright reasons, but I'm going to read to you what it said. He goes, "We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it." Then Jimmy Kimmel said, "So what was Donald Trump's response? How was he mourning?" Then he plays this video of Donald Trump when he was asked, "How are you mourning the death of Charlie Kirk?" Let's play that clip if we got it.
My condolences on the loss of your friend, Charlie Kirk. Can I ask your coach, how are you holding up over the last 3.5 years?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty. It'll be an absolutely magnificent structure. And I just see all the trucks. We just started, so it'll get done very nicely, and it'll be one of the best anywhere in the world, actually.
Thank you so much.
So Trump was asked, "How are you holding up?" He says, "Very good. Have you seen the ballroom that we're building there? Look how beautiful the ballroom is." To which Kimmel, after showing that clip, says, "This is not how an adult grieves the murder of somebody he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish." Okay? That was it. There was nothing else that was said about it at all. I asked Brett and Jordy and our whole editorial team, I said, am I missing something here? Because that is what Sinclair is saying. This does not reflect our values. We need to stop this immediately. This is, something that's heinous. He needs to. I'm like, based on that? It wasn't like Kimmel talked about Charlie Kirk's anti-black, anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ, misogynistic call. Could have. It should have. It probably should have. Could have. We do. It wasn't like Kimmel talked about how Charlie Kirk called for the literal execution of former President Biden, eliminating the Civil Rights Act, how he doesn't think black people should be pilots. I could go on and on. Didn't say any of that stuff. Just said the truth. The truth was that MAGA was trying to pin this on anybody else other than one of them. That's an accurate statement. And based on that, now here was the FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr. This is a MAGA guy, a Trump guy. This is the guy who's been sending out threatening letters to any network that the government licenses about speaking the language of the regime, or else we will not approve your licenses, your mergers. He sent this before. Here's what he said. He goes, we're going after more people. He goes, this is just the beginning. This is just the first one to drop, he says. Here, play this clip.
And so again, we're going back to that era when local TV stations judging the public interest get to decide what the American people think. And again, we're constraining the power through those actions of Disney, of Comcast. I think the American public are going to be much better off. But yeah, I don't think this is the last shoe to drop. This is a massive shift that's taking place in the media ecosystem. And I think the consequences are going to continue to flow.
Right.
Jimmy Kimmel said nothing wrong. I want to be abundantly clear about that. And even if he did misspeak or say something wrong, the reaction is still completely irresponsible. I've now watched that clip of Jimmy Kimmel, the actual clip, and I have read the transcript numerous times, and whole lot of people are completely misconstruing what he says. I don't know what the reason is, probably just to kind of get to that ends where they want to kind of cancel him because of what Donald Trump is saying, but their spin on this whole thing is completely wrong. Jimmy Kimmel was in no way saying that the shooter was a MAGA shooter. That is not what he was saying. He was not trying to pin the blame on a group of people. Jimmy Kimmel was accurately criticizing the response immediately following the killing when MAGA rushed to try to blame anybody who wasn't them. That's what he meant by it. And we all saw this play out in real time. The second this instance happened, what did we see? We saw this was the trans people who did it. This is the leftists. This is the Democrats. This is war. This is war. I'm declaring war. They weren't trying to seek the truth. They weren't trying to figure out how can we get justice here. They were trying to go to war. They were salivating about creating an enemy that they could attack and trying to pin the actions on this one individual from Utah on an entire group of people. How dare they? And Jimmy Kimmel was right to call it out. Jimmy Kimmel was also, of course, satirically critiquing Donald Trump's heartless reaction to the killing of Charlie Kirk, somebody with whom he's pretended to have this great relationship with. And when he was asked about his death, as we showed you, he flippantly said, "Oh, I'm doing great. Have you heard about the ballroom?" Jimmy Kimmel, and you know how you also know that this is what Jimmy Kimmel was saying? If you look at the messages that Kimmel was posting, that I bet this monologue was based on, as someone who comes from the talk show world, I bet this is how him and his writers developed this monologue. Here was Jimmy Kimmel, his social media post before all of this chaos, where he said, instead of the angry finger pointing, can we just for one day agree that it is horrible and monstrous to shoot another human? On behalf of my family, we send love to the Kirks and to all the children, parents, and innocents who fall victim to senseless gun violence. So if you want to figure out more of what the intent was behind what Jimmy Kimmel was saying, well, first, just understand English in the clip that we read to you, but also you could read Jimmy Kimmel's words right there. Jimmy Kimmel said nothing wrong, and the reaction has been an authoritarian reaction. And I've seen such hypocrisy from the right on this issue. And I do want to say, there have been a lot of people on the right who I will say good job, because they have actually started to condemn the Trump administration for their suppression of free speech. A lot of those kind of manosphere, so-called podcasters, they're coming out now and saying, whoa, 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 this isn't what we voted for. This is insane. This is some of the worst censorship we have ever seen. I'm not saying this to do, I told you so. That's not my goal here in any way, shape, or form. Join us. I agree with you. Now that you see it, now get on board and understand what this administration is doing. It is an authoritarian regime that wants to crack down on free speech, and you give that to the executive, it doesn't work well for anybody. I've also seen this ridiculous conflation that kind of the public canceling people, the public critiquing people on their own. Average, everyday American people is somehow the same as the state doing it. And this is something that really enrages me because, of course, there's a whole huge discussion out there about cancel culture. This has been a big topic. The right wing for a while has gone, you're canceling us, you're canceling us. Look at what the libs are doing. Once again, they try to take the actions of random people, of everyday Americans, and they try to say, this is indicative of the state. This is indicative of the Democratic Party. No, the hell it is not. Joe Biden wasn't going around telling corporations to fire people. He was not going around saying, Jesse Waters, you said that horrible thing on Fox. Fox better fire you, or else I will take action as the government. That's exactly what Donald Trump and his regime are doing. You can even look at Brendan Carr's own words and also where he went in the first place before all this Kimmel stuff, kind of all the entire fallout happened yesterday. Brendan Carr went on Benny Johnson's podcast. Yes, the guy who was funded by Russia to make content. He went on Benny Johnson, a MAGA propagandist podcast, to say that, and I directly quote, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. ABC. When I see all these Trump stooges out there who go, oh, this is just the acts of a private company and the private company is doing what they want to do. Every time you say it, Brendan Carr of the FCC and Donald Trump go, no, we did it. It was us. It was us. I did it, and I'm going to come for more people. They say it every time, yet you still continue to deny it. And this idea of cancel culture that people have gotten so enraged about over the past few years, as I said, has come from everyday Americans. People getting mad at somebody because they said something racist is much different than the FCC threatening a comedian over jokes that they did not like. There's a massive distinction between those two things. And by the way, you also have the right, if somebody says, I don't like what XYZ celebrity did or said, and then say ABC goes, okay, there's been a lot of public pressure. Looking at our audience, we determined that we need to fire this individual. That's all First Amendment activity happening. That's how the First Amendment works. By the way, you then, on whatever other side of the aisle you are here, you have a right to then go, ABC, that was screwed up. I'm going to boycott you because I don't like your decision. All of those actions right there are the First Amendment at work. But the state coming in to silence people, to say we could do it my way or the highway, we could do this the easy way or the hard way, that right there is not the First Amendment at work. That's the crushing of the First Amendment. That is simply authoritarianism. And the fact that so-called people who claim to believe in free speech fail to distinguish between the two is just outrageous to me. Think about what you're doing to the United States of America. Think about what you are doing by allowing this sort of behavior to take place. This is not what the United States of America is all about. And by the way, the right wing, the Republicans have been doing this for a while also. They've been responsible for a lot of the so-called cancel culture also, even though they pretend not to be. Do you remember after 9/11, they canceled French fries? They canceled using the word French before fries. They called them freedom fries for all. They canceled the Dixie Chicks. Then you represented Colin Kaepernick. They canceled Colin Kaepernick. They did so many things. They had the House Un-American Activities Committee back in the day. They had Hollywood Blacklist to prevent people who they said were communists from being in the industry. There has long been a cancel culture on the right as well. And it's okay if it's coming from everyday people. When it's coming from the federal government and they are silencing citizens, they are threatening corporations, and you have this corrupt corporate system, this corrupt crony capitalism where you have these companies seeking these mergers, seeking to please their masters in order to get their mergers or acquisitions through, you have a very dangerous situation, and that's the one we find ourselves in today.
Well said, B. Really well said. I just want to take a second here too, because the attack on Jimmy Kimmel from the Trump regime, this isn't their first attack. Let's just recap really quickly. Let's remember where this all started this time around with Trump 2.0. And where was that? Remember Ann Selzer from the Iowa pollster? Trump filed and then eventually dropped a federal lawsuit against the Iowa pollster, Ann Selzer, and the Des Moines Register over her poll that had Kamala winning the state in the 2024 election. Oh, he filed a federal lawsuit over a poll. Then what we've seen lawsuits against the New York Times, 60 Minutes, and the Wall Street Journal. The Trump regime's also blocked the Associated Press's access to the White House, canceling of Stephen Colbert, and now the canceling of Jimmy Kimmel. Like, full stop. This administration is responsible for the most blatant attacks on the First Amendment in American history. For the party that pretends to champion free speech, they are quite literally the party of restricting free speech. It's this motto of free speech for me, but not for thee. That's the Republican Party right now. And it's fucking chilling the direction that this is all headed in. And by the way, real quick, shout out to Ann Selzer. She actually gave everybody the playbook. Don't bend the knee. Don't cave. Don't capitulate. Stand up for yourself, because these MAGAs are cowards once you show that you have a backbone and you're not going to be pushed around by them.
And Disney and ABC set the disgraceful standard by settling that $15 million lawsuit, that defamation suit over the Kamala Harris interview, which was just, once again, they did nothing wrong there, but they still gave Donald Trump $15 million. And did Donald Trump stop there? No, like we said, you give him an inch, he takes your life. That's exactly what Trump did there. And I do want to talk about Sinclair and these monopolies as well. We talked about Nexstar. That's the group that controls dozens and dozens of these ABC local networks. What a lot of people don't know is a lot of these local networks are actually owned by these mega conglomerates and aren't directly run by ABC and Disney. They're run by these conglomerates. experts who have a lot of say over what happens on the network. So we're seeing Sinclair. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Sinclair. Pro-Trump, MAGA, right-wing conglomerate. They own the most ABC stations in the country. And they put out this demand, this basically extortion letter, in my opinion, about Jimmy Kimmel, where they started making these demands of Kimmel. They said in this crazy letter, they said how awful it is what Jimmy Kimmel said. He didn't say anything bad in the first place. He was calling for people not to blame others for the horrific attack. Then Sinclair goes, if you ever, basically they say, if you ever want your show to be back on our stations ever again, you need to donate directly to the Kirk family, and you need to donate to the pro-MAGA Turning Point USA political organization. Only then, after then, could we have a discussion with you and you could possibly get your show back. That's just straight up extortion. Nobody should be forced to donate to a political organization, especially a grotesque MAGA political organization. They also said that they are going to beam in the homes of Americans. And so a lot of you are going to see this. And I want you to understand why it's showing up on your TV screens when it happens this weekend. They, instead of the Jimmy Kimmel show, instead of Jimmy Kimmel Live, they're playing a special, a memorial to Charlie Kirk during Jimmy Kimmel's time slot. That's going to be beamed into the local news stations of dozens and dozens and dozens of homes throughout the United States. I don't know if y'all remember, John Oliver did an incredible takedown on Sinclair a few years back, and he showed how they give their various anchors scripts. And there was the script, I'm sure you heard it. It was that video where it has all these little screens of all the little local news stations, and you hear them all reading the same script, and it all finishes with them in unison saying, and this is a danger to our democracy. And it's chilling when you see it all like that the local news is all following the same script. You think it's all these independent stations. It's not. They're being told from the top exactly what to say. Well, now they're being told to spread pro-MAGA propaganda into people's homes. And the sickest thing about this all is that the MAGA people, I've seen Donald Trump post this. I've seen Elon Musk post this. I've seen all these MAGA influencers post this. They post the Sinclair video of them reading from the script, and they say, look at the fake liberal media. Look what they do. Look how they lied to you. Look how they shoveled these talking points down your throat. That's literally a right-wing MAGA station. It is what they are doing. And their ability and their constant, the way they constantly take things that are facts and flip them to try to say, no, it's actually the other side doing this, like the most despicable. And sorry, Ben, I'm rambling a little, but I'll shoot it back to you in a second. But like we see with what happened in Minnesota, the killing of those Democratic lawmakers, now the whole MAGA narrative is that those Democratic lawmakers were killed by a Democrat, despite the fact that the guy was a well-known Trump supporter, aside from the fact that he was an evangelical guy. Tim Walz put him on a bipartisan committee, a bipartisan advisory board that he just re-put him on, because that's what Democrats do. They allow Republicans and Democrats on the bipartisan advisory board. And because Tim Walz was a normal politician and didn't banish all Republicans, they are saying that this guy is a Democrat, despite the fact that it's simply just not true. I mean, how dare you if you can't state that? And notice, we're not saying that because that guy did that all MAGA people are responsible for the killing of that. I'm saying that this MAGA guy was responsible for it. But the fact that you are lying about it is sick. The fact that you are lying about it shows everything wrong with the Republican Party and the moral rot that we have in this country. All right, Ben.
I think about every incident that takes place. Right as it's happening, what does MAGA do? Blame the left, they blame Biden, they blame a Democratic governor, no matter what it is. I mean, I remember living here in Los Angeles that when the wildfires were raging and I evacuated my family and we weren't sure if we were going to be safe, what was going to happen to our home, what was going to happen to our neighbors and our community, what did the MAGA Republicans start doing right away? This is Newsom's fault. He loves the smelt fish. He tried to save the smelt, so he didn't bring the water from the Northwest. And then Trump would say there's a magical faucet between California and Canada, and that's where the water comes down from, and he turned the faucet off, and Trump needs to turn the faucet on, and that's really what's happening here. And then Donald Trump said he turned the faucet on, but he drained water after the fires were 100% contained. He he drained reservoir water in Northern California onto farmland nowhere near Southern California after the fires were contained. You know, California is a big state, so like Northern to Southern California is like New York to Virginia. So these areas were not connected, where he just took reservoir water, 2 billion gallons, and dumped it on farmland nowhere near Southern California. It wouldn't have made a difference. It doesn't like put out fires even if you did. It just drained into the freaking farmland. But like, who thinks of that stuff?
And here's the here's where they have an advantage, quite frankly. And I don't totally know how to solve for this because they have no shame. But the second something happens, the second tragedy strikes, no matter what it is, they immediately go into, we need to set the narrative. And they don't care about what the facts are. Yeah. They just know, okay, who could I blame this on? And this is what Kimmel was getting at with his statements. Who could we blame this on? Trans. Find me a picture of a trans person who lives in Utah. It was this person. Remember, they were spreading pictures of random transgender people all throughout the internet and blaming these people for murder who had nothing to do with this whatsoever. They do that with everything. And it's easy to spread lies. And it's especially easy to spread lies when you have platforms like Twitter that are run by Elon Musk that amplifies those lies and pays you for those lies and encourages those lies to be spread. But if you're somebody who wants to seek the facts first, the facts take a lot longer to trickle in, and they trickle in slowly. And then you get part of the story and not all the story. Then you get a little bit more one day and a little bit more the next. But by the time you start getting a picture of what actually happened, that lie has went around the world 1 billion times, and people have it in their minds that that lie is the truth. And then they ignore all new facts to the contrary. It's one of the biggest problems with our information environment. And the fact is, these aren't just random people. Like we've said before, you could show me a lot of despicable posts by people on TikTok or whatever, people I've never heard of in my life. I'll show you posts from actual hosts of Fox, Brian Kilmeade talking about euthanizing the homeless, Jesse Waters saying that this means war and we got to attack now, Elon Musk saying that we better attack them now or else we're going to get killed, Donald Trump saying that this is all the leftists' fault and we're going to take revenge on the leftists. Those are serious people with actual real influence, and those comments are highly, highly, highly disturbing.
And there's no accountability structure for their lies also, right? Like, just think about it. Doge, we don't even really talk about that anymore, right? Remember the Doge dividend checks that we were all going to get $5,000 because Doge was going to find so much money. We were all going to get $5,000. Then they just move on, and now they talk about tariff rebates, and we're going to get money back because all this money is coming in from tariffs. $17 trillion, they say, where it's literally not that. Like, there's like nothing even close to 17 trillion. Like last month, the deficit was increased like a $345 billion deficit. This fiscal year, the deficit's going to be about $2 trillion, not a $15 trillion surplus if we really brought in 17 trillion. And so now they move from the Doge dividends to tariff rebates and tariff check, and they don't get held accountable. Like, that's a pretty serious freaking lie. $17 trillion. We're all going to get all this money. And then they just move on. And it's like, oh, well, Trump, he just lies. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. So, Brett, to your point, where a media infrastructure exists that allows people to flood the zone with lies, exploit tragedies, and then have no repercussions for it. And then when you have people who do their best to try to tell the truth, and if you misspeak a little bit, or if you don't even misspeak, but they don't like what you said, like Kimmel, you're out. Oh my God, what Kimmel said was the most horrible thing. It's hard. He's got to go. He needs to apologize. How dare, what are you talking about? He didn't say anything wrong. Donald Trump was like joking about Nancy Pelosi's husband almost getting killed and making
everything
up a
Trump has said and Fox has said and these Republicans have said every single day is a bajillion times worse than anything Kimmel said, because Kimmel did not say anything bad in the first place. But everything they've said has been horrific. The worst. I know we got to go to break. I know
media landscape real quick. That's why even the folks who are trying to be like, oh, Kimmel shouldn't have said that, but this attack on free speech, we can't do that. It's like, okay, pause it real quick. What did he shouldn't have said? What can I like? Or why do you still have to give slight cover to the right wing MAGA bait? What I need to know. What
because you misunderstood what he said.
Yeah, because you misunderstood it, because the headline was misleading and you didn't actually take the 30 seconds to watch the clip. It is bonkers. Kimmel did nothing wrong. Insane.
I know we're
going to take our first quick break of the show.
I'll say more. I'll say more after.
Long segment. We're going to talk about the UK trip. We're going to talk about the congressional hearings. We'll get to it all. Let's take our first quick break of the show. A reminder, go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Next Monday, when our live show ends, we will be meeting with all of our patrons. If you ever wanted to meet me, Brett, and Jordy and ask us questions, there's no questions off limits. It also helps grow our platform. So become a patron today. I'd love to see you at that Zoom chat. You'll get a secret link that only the members of Patreon get, and we'll have that Zoom meeting together. All right, first break. Let's do it. We'll be right back. Thank you.
So you ever wake up and feel like your body just hit the snooze button on life? Yeah, same. Honestly, aging sneaks up on you in some wild ways. Whether it's a night out or a good workout, I just don't bounce back the way that I used to. One day you're full of energy, the next you're Googling how to stretch without pulling a muscle. I believe one of the best aging breakthroughs of the last decade is Qualia Senolytic, and here's why. It's designed to help your body naturally eliminate something called senescent cells, also known as zombie cells. These are the ones that just hang around after they've stopped doing their job, draining your energy and making you feel, well, old. Think joint discomfort, sluggish recovery, low energy, the whole deal. Qualia Senolytic is a groundbreaking supplement made with 9 plant-based nutrients, and you only take it 2 days a month. That's it. Since I started taking it, I felt more energized, quicker to recover from workouts, and honestly, just more like me again. Plus, Qualia's breakthrough formulation is vegan, non-GMO, and tested by leading scientists. Experience the science of feeling younger. Go to qualialife.com/Meidas for up to 50% off your purchase and use code Meidas for an additional 15%. That's QUALIA life.com/Meidas, MEIDAS, for that extra 15% off. Your older self will thank you. And thanks to Qualia for sponsoring this episode. Ever stare at a wall of wine at the grocery store and feel like you're taking the SATs? Yeah, it's confusing. I've got enough going on juggling work, the news, and trying to not lose my mind. I don't need a wine anxiety spiral at the supermarket. That's why I started using Naked Wines. This episode is sponsored by Naked Wines, a wine club that directly connects you to the world's best independent winemakers so you can get world-class wine delivered straight to your door. Use our code Meidas, MEIDAS, yes, that's the code and password, at nakedwines.com and get 6 bottles for just $39.99. I recently enjoyed a bottle of Syrah from Naked Wines from my last order, and let me tell you, that thing did not last long. I love cracking open a bottle of wine, putting my phone away, and actually being in the moment with family and friends, and Naked Wines makes that easy. Here's the best part. They bring you incredible wine straight from the wineries at up to 60% less than what you'd pay at the store. When you cut out the middleman, the winemakers pass the savings on to you without skimping on quality. Plain and simple, the wine is amazing. The more I rate them, the better my shipments get. I swear they've got my taste down to a science at this point. Now is the time to join the Naked Wines community. Head to nakedwines.com/Meidas, click enter voucher, and put in my code Meidas, MEIDAS, for both the code and password for 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99 with shipping included. That's $100 off your first 6 bottles at nakedwines.com/Meidas and use the code and password Meidas for 6 bottles of wine for $39.99.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes, use the passwords. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next?
I'm going to pass it to Brett. Brett, I know there was more you wanted to say before we took the break, and I want to talk about the disastrous UK trip, Donald Trump's press conference earlier today with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. It was very odd indeed that Donald Trump spent the first day in the UK at Windsor Castle, at the palace, basically. And it seemed like everybody was like playing dress up for Donald Trump as well. The ultimate intention, I think, of King Charles was to try to get Donald Trump there to talk about supporting Ukraine. But like for those on audio, we just showed Kate, the Queen, and or Princess Kate right there. Do we have the photo of there? She is, and she's like wearing the crown. Like I don't think that she normally goes to dinner wearing the crown, even formal dinners. And so like they truly did like the Disney princess experience for Donald Trump, and they just made it extra. And it's a complete waste of taxpayer dollars for UK and the United States. I'm glad to see all the people in London and in Windsor protesting. For the United States, we have No Kings protests coming up in October. I hope the protests No Kings is way bigger than it even was this summer, which was pretty big. But I give King Charles a little bit of a break here because I'll show you in a bit what I think his intention was to educate Donald Trump on the history. But even while Donald Trump was there, he was saying a bunch of bizarre things. He looked awful. Melania was wearing a flying saucer all over her face. Like you couldn't even see her head. Like she looked like the Grim Reaper with the way she was positioned with this flying saucer over her head. Yeah, for those on audio, you can't see it. But like what? Like seriously, like what the hell am I even? Like they can't do anything normal, these people. Donald Trump's hand, again, just rotting, like the flesh literally rotting away. And they use like a color makeup at this point that just basically accentuates accentuates. But Brett, I'm going to talk about the UK. I teased it. Let me pass it to you.
All right, I'll let you get into the UK in a second. But no, all I was going to say before is, one of the things I've noticed is that, I see a lot of people going, where are the Democrats and all this? Where are the Democrats? And I know this might not be a popular belief, but I think the Democrats actually are doing as much as they can at this moment. Like you have to remember, they have their hands tied behind their backs because they are out of power. It's one of the reasons why the midterms are so important. But you see them trying desperately every single day. Today, we saw Representative Garcia trying to subpoena, I believe he was subpoenaing, was he doing Brendan Carr? I think he was subpoenaing Brendan Carr from the FCC to talk about this ABC censorship that's going on right now. We saw Ro Khanna issuing subpoenas out there. We see subpoenas going for Epstein, for Carr, for all these various issues. They are trying to get to the bottom of all this. Every single time these votes happen, the Republicans vote them down like clockwork. It happens like almost every single day. You see the Democrats taking as much action as they can and the Republicans trying to hide it. And then you see people go, but why aren't the Democrats doing anything? Listen, I get it. And they certainly you have a lot to critique them for. But the fact is, they have their hands tied behind their backs because they were voted out of power. I mean, I don't know what you expect people to do when they aren't in power to do the things. The horrible people are in power right now. It's why voting is so important. It's why we said this is the most important election of our lifetimes. It was. We're seeing the results of it. We're still seeing the results, of course, from Hillary Clinton losing in 2016 as well with the Supreme Court. All these elections matter. They are all important. And when people are voted out of power, you can't then go, I'm going to now blame the victim. I'm going to now blame the people who we punished. That just, to me, isn't fair. And it may not be a popular opinion, but I feel like it's worth saying because I'm seeing the work that they're doing, especially in these past few days, related to Epstein or related to Brendan Carr. And then you see people just constantly still trying to pretend like somehow both sides are the same. I don't know how you could look at the political climate we're in right now and say that both sides are anywhere near the same at all. And show me one example of Democrats or President Biden doing anything near what Donald Trump is doing if you're going to come at me with that BS. All right, Ben.
All right, let's go through the UK trip right now. So Donald Trump arrived in the UK. His first stop was in Windsor. He went to the castle, which is kind of in the countryside area away from where the protests were. And then today, Donald Trump spent a little bit of time with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. They held a press conference together. Trump got some questions on Epstein as well, which I'll talk about, because the UK ambassador to the United States, who's very friendly with Trump and was hanging out at West Palm Beach and on the island, this guy, Lord Mandelson, he got fired because his birthday card to Epstein in 2003, and that birthday book was exposed. Then Bloomberg found other emails between Mandelson and between Mandelson and Epstein, and that was enough in a normal country to get rid of the guy, right? Mandelson wasn't like, that was a forgery. They went back in 2003 and forged my name. No, it was him. The same way Donald Trump's name was in the same book. And you'll see when I show you Donald Trump's press conference today, the same way Donald Trump claims that the birthday card that he sent, which he did send, it's not a question of if he sent it, he sent it. he claims it was a forgery, and there's a great forger who's also a time traveler who planted it in the book 22 years ago to frame him when he was a Democrat, knowing he would become a Republican president one day. But there's a time traveling forger on the loose. And our media is like, yeah, I guess time traveling forger. And, and our broken political establishment on the Republicans, like, yeah, whatever. That's what he says. Well, why would we hold him accountable? Like, that's what he says. But the UK got rid of that guy. But
Some people say that Donald Trump wrote the letter, but Donald Trump denies it. You decide what's real. That's like all the reporting that has gotten us into this freaking mess.
Exactly. Let me show you some of the lowlights of today's press conference with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Donald Trump claims that we brought in $17 trillion. I mean, again, it's just such a ridiculous number. And in normal times, this would be a front page story, right? I mean, just think about the massive fraud. What was Bernie Madoff's scandal was $54 billion Ponzi scheme or $45 billion Ponzi scheme. I mean, right before our eyes, this is a $17 trillion Ponzi scheme where every single American is a victim of this other than the billionaire oligarchs. Like, it just happened. So in a normal, healthy environment, right, this is the number one story. Trump lies, $17 trillion, which would mean we'd have about a $15 trillion surplus this year, which would mean we're in the greatest times imaginable. Except why is our balance sheet at Treasury showing a $2 trillion deficit for the year? And why doesn't anybody talk about it? Like, why are we so nonchalant? Okay, 17 trillion. Is Trump saying, oh, he's Trump? Here, play this clip.
$17 trillion, and this is during an 8-month period being invested in the country, which is not only a record, but if you compare $17 trillion to the last year of the Biden administration, they did $250 billion. They didn't do $1 trillion for the 4-year period. We did $17 trillion of investment coming in. A lot of it's because of tariffs, and a lot of it's for a lot of other reasons, but there's never been anything like it. It's an economic superstar. That's what's become. It was mismanaged and badly handled for a long period of time, but it's not badly handled anymore. So that's a record. And remember, that's up until 8 months. We have another few months to go, and that number is going to get significantly higher.
So what are they going to say? It's 40 trillion. I mean, how stupid. It's just stupid. It's dangerous though. It's a lie. It's a horrible lie. And it will never be reported. Like, other than here, that you'll never see that actually be a story in any major corporate news. They don't talk about it. They let him say it. Like, that's bonkers.
Worse than they don't talk about it. They repeat it and they run it as the headline, and they don't really say that it's not true. And then you have people who go up to you, well, all right, Donald Trump's done a lot of bad things, but he brought in like $17 trillion to the U.S. No, he didn't. What are you talking about? This is just made up stuff. We're going to get those tariff rebate checks. Those are coming, No, you're not going to get tariff rebate checks. The deficit's at all-time highs. The debt's at all-time highs. It's going up at a greater rate than ever before. Like, why are we all living in this stupid era where nobody actually fact checks things, where nobody actually lives in reality? Like, are people's brains this broken where we've gotten to this point where they can't understand that everything this guy says is a complete and total fabrication?
Beyond that too, and I'm just going to say, he looks like an old catcher's mitt. I mean, like, when you look at him up there with the ridiculous makeup on a global stage like that, delivering the speech, talk 17 trillion, I mean, making up numbers, you got to just really think to yourself, like, this is the person who is representing the United States of America on a global stage. It is just utterly embarrassing.
MeidasTouch editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski said they call this shade a bronzer, 84% cacao. You look at Donald Trump. I mean, he's let's just be honest. Let's just not mince words. He's wearing blackface. Like, it is, if you look at Donald Trump, like, it's like near offensive levels of the way that his makeup is right now. And it doesn't even extend to his ear. So he's really dark in the front of his face. And then he's got these white spots. Then his hand is decomposing. And then he's got this entirely other shade of makeup on his. It's like a weird Frankenstein monster that we're dealing with right now.
Then he, at this press conference, where, by the way, UK uses a lot of wind energy. Donald Trump says, we don't do wind because it's a disaster. No, it's not a disaster. What does that mean? It's not a disaster. And then he talks about how energy prices are way down. Well, I'm sure your home energy prices are not way down. I bet you they're up right now. And then he goes, inflation is way down and we have very little inflation, after we just got a report that inflation is, headline inflation, 2.9% increase year over year, core inflation up 3.1% year over year. And Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, and anybody who is worth being an economist, tells you this is not the end of the inflation is going to keep on going up right now, because the impact of the tariffs are now finally working its way into the pricing if companies are able to survive and not go bankrupt. Here he is attacking wind. Let's play it.
Thank you, Jack. I would like to say that we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. We had inflation, the likes of which we've really never seen. They say 48 years, and I'll accept that, but I really don't. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country, and we had a expression that I used a lot, drill, baby, drill. And as you know, we brought fuel way down, the prices way down. And we don't do wind because wind is a disaster. It's a very expensive joke, frankly. And we got our energy prices way down. That brought the inflation way down. And now we have very little inflation. And we have a very, very strong economy. So that was very important. Drill, baby, drill. And you have a great asset here, and we spoke about it. It's called the North Sea. The North Sea oil is phenomenal, and I hope, because I love this country, my mother was born in Scotland, and the Hebrides.
Quite literally everything he's saying is a lie too. I mean, just every little inflation. There's other clips where he goes, there's no inflation. You don't need to hear them. I mean, there is inflation. It's rising. You know it. You go to the store. You know things are less affordable. You also know, I hope, that Donald Trump was the cause of the inflation during Biden's office, because Trump destroyed the supply lines. Trump mishandled COVID. Trump added $8 trillion of debt, and that caused inflation. When the doctor or when the firefighters have to put out the fire, you actually have to take the bandages off and expose the Ponzi scheme and what was happening to fix it. That's what Biden did. He was trying to fix it. It was heading in a direction of being fixed based on all of the objective data, and Trump screwed it up again. And that's what we're living with right now. Finally, here's the Lord Mandelson question, the UK ambassador to the United States, who was fired by the government in the UK because his name appeared in the same birthday book as Trump's, and he sent emails to Epstein saying basically the same types of things that Trump has said publicly about Epstein in the past, where Trump he's a great guy who likes women on the younger side, and you're the greatest ever, stuff like that. Here, play this clip.
Scare him and impose sanctions. And finally, if I may, the elephant in the room, Lord Mandelson, he is no longer the ambassador. Do you have some sympathy with him that he lost his job over historic links to Jeffrey Epstein? Thank you very much, sir.
I don't know him, actually. I had heard that, and I think maybe the Prime Minister would be better speaking of that. That was a choice that he made, and I don't know. What is your answer to that?
Well, I mean, it's very straightforward. Some information came to light last week which wasn't available when he was appointed, and I made a decision about it, and that's very clear.
And this is one of the issues, again, that I really have with this regime. And for those on audio, let me tell you the graphic that we just pulled up right here. And it is from Donald Trump's official White House response account. It's a photo of Donald Trump and Lord Mandelson from May, happened a few months back. And it says, Lord Peter Mandelson, British ambassador to the U.S., standing right next to Donald Trump, quote, "You've done what you've said you would do. You've been true to your word." It's a photo of Trump and Mandelson. They spent a lot of time together. They're laughing together. They knew each other well. They know each other well back from the West Palm Beach days. They're friends. They know each other. That's why the UK picked the guy to be the ambassador, because he has a good friendship with Trump and he knows Trump. They're friends. They know each other. But you see, the issue to me, when I could show you hundreds of other clips from this stuff. I'm just going to show you, these ones. But $17 trillion, that's just not accurate. Attacking wind and saying you brought inflation down, that's just, again, completely false. Saying that you don't know the guy who you clearly know. saying that your signature is a forgery, which is the most ridiculous lie imaginable as well. It's like, okay, there's not forging time travelers. It's just utterly stupid. And it's just every one of these things. This shouldn't be a debate. Like I don't need to debate somebody on. Like these are undisputed facts. It's not a debate. That's why I hate these shows where it's like, what, you're going to put someone who represents the Trump position and basically, you know, try to argue, well, how do we know? How do we know? Or we give it some time. No, just stop. There's not 17 trillion. That is his signature. He knows Lord Mandelson. Inflation is here. How do we address this as a nation? Is what I want to know. That's what I try to get at here at the MeidasTouch Network. What can we do together right now? And then finally, I'll show you this clip right here. And then I want to pivot to talk about these hearings in the House and in the Senate, which I thought were explosive. And I want to read for you what the Epstein survivor said in response to Kash Patel. But I don't even understand what Trump is saying here. Like, it's not a coherent thought even. And it's on a very serious issue, the price of drugs. Because the price of drugs is going up. The price of healthcare is about to skyrocket, not just even if you're on Medicaid or Medicare, but if you're under the Affordable Care Act, the tax premium, the tax credits are about to expire. So if you're paying several hundred, 500, 600 bucks a month, it may be $2,000 a month very soon because Republicans are going to let the tax credits expire. And pharmaceuticals are going up significantly. You know your healthcare costs are going up right now. Rural hospitals are getting all of it. Rural hospitals are getting closed. Everything is increasing. So this is a serious topic. And back in May, I remember it vividly because I was in New York in May. I remember where I was. Remember when Donald Trump made the post, we hereby declare that the pharmaceutical companies are subject to a most favored nation clause. They now have to give their pharmaceuticals at the cheapest price that they're providing in other countries in the United States. So if they're charging $5 in Canada, it must be $5 in the US. If they're charging $1 in India, it's $1 in the US. He says it's happening immediately. It didn't happen. So there's no Doge dividend. There's no peace in Ukraine. There's no most favored nation. It's the most favored nations on pharmaceuticals. And now he goes with this line about reducing the costs by 1,000%, which, if true, would mean that we would be getting $1,000 if something basically cost the buck, right? They would be paying us $1,000. There's no such thing as reducing something by 1,000%. But then when he describes it, he's describing doubling the price. So because if we pay $10, we're now going to pay $20. So the price is being reduced by 1,000. Could you imagine if Biden said this or anybody? And he also just kind of garbles the words together. So as you're even listening to this sentence, it's like a bunch of word vomit mush that doesn't mean words. He doesn't get called out on it. No one's going to write about it. And it's just one of those things that's just like, it's Trump. That's what he says. Where this should be disqualifying. This should be impeachable. Just based on this should be 25th Amendment. Tell me if you disagree. Let's play it.
You agree. You understand. Yeah. And we're going to be reducing drug costs over the next year and a half by not 50 or 60%, by 1,000%. Because if you think a $10 pill going, so it'll be raised up from 10 to 20 because it's the world versus us. So the world is a bigger place. So it'll go from 10 to 20. It won't go from 10 to 50 or 60 for them, which is bearable. And it'll go from 10 to 20 for us. So you're talking about a monumental change in healthcare. That's going to affect Medicare, Medicaid, even Social Security. It's going to affect everything. That will be one of the biggest things you'll ever see done, because we've been paying for the healthcare of every nation in the world so stupidly.
Okay, like literally everything he said there was not just a lie. Like it was actually borderline. And I don't want to make light of mental illness. It was like psychotic. Like it was actually like a crazy dementia-ridden family grandparent. You know, and I say this sincerely. Like what the hell was that? Conflating concepts, Social Security, 1,000. The world is bigger than us, so the world. Then he describes prices going up. So if you pay 10, you're going to pay 20 because the world is bigger than us. And then she's like, "Yeah." He goes, "You understand, right? You understand." No, I don't understand. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no clue. And again, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, independent, blue, purple, whatever. You should watch that and go, that's not normal. Like, that's what you should say. And that's my perspective on all of this. When I watch that, I'm like, what is that? How could this person be leading the country? How could we be okay? How could that be? There's no 4-dimensional chess. That's just a freaking crazy person. That's really what it is. A dangerous one. Anyway, we'll come back. I want to show some of the congressional hearing stuff. You even have Trump's own CDC director saying, yeah, crazy person. Absolutely. Totally crazy. Let's take our last quick break of the show. A reminder, go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Me and my brothers would love to meet you in person. We're doing a live Zoom chat after our next live show next Monday. After the show ends, join. If you ever wanted to meet us and ask us questions, you'll have the opportunity to do that. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Spread the word about the MeidasTouch network as well. We need you now more than ever. All right, last quick break, home stretch when we come back.
Cooler temps are rolling in, and as always, Quince is where I'm turning for fall staples that actually last. From cashmere to denim to boots, the quality holds up and the price still blows me away. Personally, I've been living in their Pro Peak Performance polos and the European linen relaxed long sleeve shirt. They've become part of my go-to wardrobe. The quality is incredible, they hold up wash after wash, and honestly feel better than stuff I've paid way more for in the past. And Quince has really become a go-to across the board. I even picked up some wall art from them that looks amazing at my place. What I love is that Quince has those fall staples you'll wear nonstop, like 100% Mongolian cashmere sweaters starting at just $60. Their denim is durable and fits right, and their real leather jackets bring that clean, classic edge without the crazy price tag. The reason they could do it? Quince partners directly with ethical factories and skips the middleman, so you get top-tier fabrics and craftsmanship at half the price of similar brands. Keep it cool and classic this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/Meidas for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Meidas, MEIDAS, free shipping and 365-day returns, quince.com/Meidas.
Snoring, hogging the covers, tossing and turning, these are problems in the bedroom that Hims can help you with. But when it comes to performance issues between the sheets like ED, Hims has you covered. Through Hims, you can access personalized prescription treatments for ED, like Hard Mints and Sex RX plus Climax Control. Hims offers access to ED treatment options that cost 95% less than brand names. New Sex RX plus testosterone support includes tadalafil for better bedroom performance and zinc for testosterone support. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. If appropriate, just fill out an intake form on their site and connect with a medical provider who can determine if treatment is right for you. The process is 100% online, which means no office visits and no pharmacy lines. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. If prescribed, your medication ships discreetly to your door for free. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/Meidas. Find ED treatments that's up to 95% less than brand names at HIMS.com/Meidas. hims.com/Meidas. Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information. Ever wake up sweaty, freezing, or just uncomfortable? The temperature in your bedroom can make or break your sleep. That's why I switched to Miracle Made sheets. They're inspired by NASA technology and use silver-infused temperature-regulating fabric to help you sleep perfectly all night long. Miracle Made sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. Hot sleeper, cold sleeper, it doesn't matter. These sheets help keep you in the comfort zone all night long. Thanks to their antibacterial silver technology, Miracle Made sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than regular sheets. That means fewer odors, fewer wash cycles, and way less laundry. They feel just as good, if not better, than sheets you'd find at a 5-star hotel, but without the steep price tag. Smooth, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better rest. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use promo code Meidas, you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift with a 30-day money-back guarantee. There's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Meidas, code Meidas at checkout. Thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both YouTube and the audio. Use the links. Use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you, Benji, before I toss it back to you. I agree. And it's my favorite game. Imagine if Biden did it. Imagine if former President Biden was photographed with somebody in the Oval Office, and then one of his accounts that he uses tweets out something to the effect of, "Sir, you've done a wonderful job. It's so great to have you. Thank you." And then Ben and Brett and Meidas Mighty, Trump is asked about said individual. President Biden is asked about said individual and his connections, deep ties to former pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And Trump says, I don't know the guy. Biden says, "I don't know the guy. I've never met the guy. So what do you think? What do you think over there?" Could you imagine, seriously, what corporate news would be doing? The stories about President Biden, he's either cognitively addled or he's lying. Which is it? And they would not stop till they got whatever answer serviced them. We saw it all play out. It was all in front of our eyes. But yet when Donald Trump literally does this thing where he pretends not to know what appears to be a very close associate of Jeffrey Epstein, by all accounts, enough to have him removed for that position, he has him in the Oval Office. They're buddies. He says, "Hey, you're a great person." And then when asked about him, after all of this comes out, the letter that the gentleman gets fired over, that Donald Trump, again, that was a plant. That didn't actually happen for Trump, but it happened to this guy. Trump's able to say, "I don't know the guy. I've never met the guy." There's literally photos. There's photos of him in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. And yet corporate media move on to the next thing. Nothing to see here, folks. It's unfriggin' believable.
It's why you have to do a real psychological profile on the guy, as we did. And you have to understand that he's a sociopath, a malignant narcissist, perpetual liar, con artist, fraud, felon. He's a sexual abuser. You just have to understand everything out of his mouth is a lie. He's quite literally probably the greatest con artist and fraud, definitely in the history of the country, but probably almost ever. I mean, it is really a skill how he lies and commits fraud. There are these excerpts coming out from former Vice President Kamala Harris's book where she talks about in private, if Donald Trump would ever speak to her, he would say, "My daughter Ivanka loves you. You're so great. You're such a great person. I got to be honest, you're doing amazing. I think that I'm going to take it easier on you because I really would like you." And she said, "I recognize that that's just his tactics and how he lies about everything to try to kind of lure you in," right? I spoke to Governor Newsom of California, who talked about how when they were on the phone together, right as Donald Trump was going to send in the National Guard, Donald Trump was saying anything but conversations about the National Guard. "Hey, do you like my MAGA hats? Do you like the nickname? Should I do additional names? What else should I do? Do you like, should I put out more MAGA?" And Newsom was like, he was like, "What'd you think about the debates that I had?" She was really good at the debates, right? She definitely was a better debater than me, but and then Governor Newsom's like, "This guy's like a sociopath. He's like a crazy guy." And you have to write in all things. That's what he's doing. And what's one of the tactics that and there's also internally in everything he says that doesn't make sense. On the one hand, we brought in $17 trillion. We're in the golden age. On the other hand, he'll say in the same interview, one question apart, actually, we got to wait a year. And that's when the Trump economy is going to actually kick in. Give me a year. So it's all the tactics of a fraudster in almost a parody of a fraudster, but it has all of those traits, and there's really no appeasing it. I get King Charles was trying to basically be like, all right, do the pomp and circumstance, gold carriage, have Princess Kate wear the crown, sit next to him, literally give Donald Trump the Disney princess experience. We've done that in Disneyland, that's literally what they gave him, a real version of that. So then King Charles could do this. I'll show you what this was all about. But it doesn't matter. There's no way to get through to the guy. He's a crazy person who identifies with Putin, who's an authoritarian, and it's not going to work. All it's going to do is Trump shows up, he brags about the trip, and then he goes back home and then does what he does to Kimmel. You just watch those. So I at least think this was the whole reason that King Charles did what he did, and let's play it.
Our countries have the closest defense, security, and intelligence relationship ever known. In 2 world wars, we fought together to defeat the forces of tyranny. Today, as tyranny once again threatens Europe, we and our allies stand together in support of Ukraine to deter aggression and secure peace.
And then he looks at Trump, our allies. It looks like Trump's gargling vomit in the video also. Like the guy just looks like a freaking like a frog. Just the whole thing is so freaking bizarre. All right, I want to talk about what happened in these congressional hearings. As promised, Congressmember Eric Swalwell cross-examining FBI Director Patel after Patel claims he doesn't know if Trump's name was in the Epstein Files once, twice, 1,000 times. The number doesn't really matter, Patel says. Here, play this clip.
I appreciate the director reviewing the files. You said you don't know the number of times Trump's name appears in the files, so it could at least be 1,000 times. Is that right?
The number is a total misleading factor. We have not released anyone's name in the Epstein Files that has not been credible.
Director, could it at least be 1,000 times? We have released
every piece of legally permissible information.
Okay,
you can characterize the numbers however you want it.
Claiming my time, Director. It sounds like if you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times.
It's not. It's not.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number, but it's not that.
Do you think it might be your job to know the number?
My job is to provide for the safety and security of this country. My job is not to engage in political innuendo so you can go out to the sticks and get your 20 seconds.
Okay. Then Patel refuses to give a direct answer, whether he told the Attorney General that Trump's name is in the Epstein Files. Let's play it.
Remembering your oath to tell the truth, did you ever tell Donald Trump his name is in the files?
I have never spoken to President Trump about the Epstein Files.
Did you ever tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein Files?
The Attorney General and I have had numerous discussions about the entirety of the Epstein Files and the reviews conducted by our team.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein Files?
And we have released where President Trump's name is in the Epstein Files. It's a simple question. Did you tell the Attorney General that the President's name is in the Epstein Files? During many conversations that the Attorney General and I have had on the matter of Epstein, we have reviewed.
The question is simple.
Who
did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein Files? Yes or no?
Why don't you try spelling it out?
Yes or no, Director?
Use the alphabet.
Yes or no?
No, A, B, C,
Director,
D, E, F.
it sounds like you don't want to tell us. Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein Files?
Why don't you try serving your
Director,
constituency by focusing on reducing violent crime in this country?
Okay, so
it seems like it should be an easy question to answer, as I'm saying. It seems like a pretty easy yes or no question. Have you guys heard of imposter syndrome? Like a lot of successful people have imposter syndrome. A lot of people in general just have imposter syndrome, where like they think that they're inadequate or don't belong in a certain role or position. Like Patel clearly has that, but he like actually is an imposter. Like it's this imposter syndrome is warranted. You could tell he wears it on his sleeve, that he knows that he's so in over his head on all of this. He does not belong in that position. He's a total and complete fraud. He's a podcaster who spent his entire life grifting his way up the totem pole, saying everything he could possible to appease Donald Trump and to incite people against the FBI. And then the second he gets in there, what was he saying yesterday too? What was he saying during this hearings? He'd be like, "Excuse me, how dare you disparage the good, badass people at the FBI?" Dude, your entire career was based on you disparaging the FBI. That's your whole thing. That's been your entire thing. Your entire thing also has been the FBI director. He's the guy who has the Epstein Files. And the second, if I would ever get in there, I'd release him instantly. And then they try this whole convoluted, but legally speaking, actually, there are some files that are being hidden by judge. No, they're not. You have them all, okay? You have them all. Stop trying to use legalese to hide the fact that y'all look through the Epstein files, notice that Donald Trump's name was all over it. God knows what is in those files about Donald Trump. And you reversed course on everything you ever pretended to believe in. And now you're saying, oh, I can't, I wish I could. Or the word they use that I noticed that they use in every sentence to try to give themselves some sort of cover, which I find very suspicious. So when they go, we've released all the credible information that there is. There might be not credible information in these files, but all the credible information is now out there. What's the not credible stuff? All the stuff about Trump? Yeah, that's what I think personally.
So I have the court order from the federal judge who says the government is the logical party to make the comprehensive disclosure to the public of the Epstein files. Okay, so anytime Kash Patel or Bondi, their new thing is we can't turn it over because we've been prevented by the judge. The only thing the judge said is, why are you asking to turn over 70 pages of grand jury testimony that's not the Epstein files, which you know a court's not allowed to turn over because under Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E, it's not allowed to be turned over. But the judge said, why don't you provide the actual Epstein files? You're the party who should turn it over. And this is what the court says. The government's the logical party to make comprehensive disclosure to the public of the Epstein files. By comparison, the instant grand jury motion appears to be a diversion from the breadth and scope of the Epstein files in the government's possession. The grand jury testimony is merely a hearsay snippet of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged conduct. In February 2025, the government, as noted, was prepared to release the Epstein files to the public. But then on July 6, 2025, the government announced it would not make the files available to the public. And then it cites the memo. And it says, a significant and compelling reason to reject the government's position in this litigation is that the government has already undertaken a comprehensive investigation into the Epstein case, and not surprisingly, has assembled a trove of Epstein documents, interviews, and exhibits, as the government committed that it would share its Epstein investigation material with the public. And the government committed it would share it with the public. The federal judge here, Berman, is saying release the files. It's not a debate. That's what the judge wants. So when he was like, oh, the judge said not to turn it over, one of the other things that Kash Patel took the position was that Epstein never trafficked girls or women with any other men, that he was just a lone wolf. What are you talking about? And then he was pressed on it, and he was like, yes, as it relates to the charged conduct. As it relates to the charged conduct. Okay, well, as it relates to the charged conduct, we know that only Epstein was charged and Ghislaine Maxwell. The issue is that there was a cover-up and more people should be charged. We know that only 1 or 2 people were charged. We get that. So that, Brett, to your point, is how they think they're being sneaky, right? Yes, it was only related to the charged conduct. Yeah, because we all believe you should have charged other people, or we at least want to know. So the Epstein survivors came out with a statement saying, again, how shocked and horrified. Their statement today: we are shocked by the testimony of the FBI Director Kash Patel before the United States Senate and the House Oversight Committee. Director Patel stated that in the FBI's Jeffrey Epstein case file, there's no credible information, none, that he trafficked to other individuals. We're struggling to understand what this means. Even the limited information that has been made public includes accounts such as Virginia Giuffre's report that Epstein trafficked her to other individuals besides himself. We also understand, as Representative Thomas Massey pointed out during the House Oversight hearing, that there are FBI reports documenting witness interviews in which victims of Epstein and Maxwell named at least 20 other men that they were trafficked to. So horrible, horrible stuff right there. Let me show you one other, not Kash Patel clip, but this is Dr. Susan Monarez, the former CDC director who Trump appointed and all of the Republicans pushed. I mean, she's kind of MAGA adjacent, but still a scientist. So Democrats didn't want her to be the CDC director. Like, it was a pretty narrow vote that she passed on because she was kind of MAGA adjacent in the views of Democrats, at least. But they forced her out when she at least questioned, why is RFK changing the vaccine schedule? Now that they pushed her out even more, he got rid of the measles vaccine recommendation for children under the age of 4. Measles, rubella, mumps. Brett, you have a baby. Jordy, your baby's young. I had a baby recently. What? Like, I can't even fathom. Like, this stuff is quackery of quackery being run by non-doctors, like by RFK, who previously said, don't listen to my advice. I'm not a doctor. He said, don't listen. I'm not a doctor. When he was pressed. Here's what Dr. Susan Monterez said. In many ways, Monterez's hearing was even more of a bombshell than Patel, because we know Patel's a liar. Here, play this clip.
Secretary Kennedy told the Finance Committee that he did not ask you to pre-approve, but that you were biased against the new ACIP, and he just asked you to keep an open mind. Did he cite any data or science as relates to the potential ACIP recommendations to persuade you to support them?
He did not have any data or science to point to. As a matter of fact, we got into an exchange where I had suggested that I would be open to changing childhood vaccine schedules if the evidence or science were supportive. And he responded that there was no science or evidence associated with the childhood vaccine schedule. And he elaborated that CDC had never collected the science or the data to make it available related to the safety and efficacy.
To be clear, he said there was not science or data, but that you still expected you to change the schedule.
Correct.
Okay. Dr. Oury, Dr. Monterez is...
Bill Cassidy, the senator making those or questioning, is a physician himself. He's a Republican from Louisiana. He actually was the deciding factor in why RFK Jr. was able to make it through that committee, because RFK Jr. said he wasn't going to change the vaccine recommendations, and Cassidy believed the liar. And then even after the liar lied, Cassidy's been doing good hearings, but he's still like, well, I guess we got to give it time. What time? You're about to get kids killed if they haven't already. Brett, George.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think we're kind of wrapping it all up, tying it all together. There have been two, I think, big kind of cornerstone moments of this administration that have woken a lot of people up who have supported Donald Trump to this point. I would say the first one was Epstein, and seeing these constant evasive answers by the FBI, the constant lies, the hiding, the denials of things that are so obvious that unless you are so intellectually bankrupt, you cannot acknowledge, like the birthday book, the lawsuits, all these sort of threats that you see around all of this, the survivors, their attempts to constantly silence the survivors. I think that woke a whole lot of people who voted for Donald Trump up, a whole lot of these independents who thought, let's give this guy a shot. Okay, maybe he's good for the economy. He keeps talking about groceries. Okay, I'll ignore the weird everything else he ever said, all the dictator stuff, all the Hannibal Lecter, whatever. But groceries, if the prices are expensive, let's give something else a chance. There was that. And now there's, of course, this attack on free speech, which is also, I think, having much of the same impact on people that are going, whoa, this is a lot different than what I was sold. A lot of people told me that he was against free speech, but Donald Trump would constantly say, I am shutting down government censorship. I am ending the war on free speech. I am the free speech president. J.D. Vance constantly speaking that. Well, they've been exposed as total frauds. And so if you happen to stumble across this podcast, if a friend has shared this to you, I just want to say, now that you understand the fraud and the con, it's time to join the normalcy train, okay? You got to realize what is at stake here when you have a party that is getting rid of vaccines for children, when you have a party that is making things worse for farmers, worse for working people, prices continuing to rise because of these ridiculous tariff schemes, when you see the constant attacks on free speech, the constant attacks on the United States Constitution. This is not a road that we want to go down as a country. And there will be a time when we could debate throughout all sides, right? Whether should healthcare be single payer healthcare? Should it be some sort of hybrid system between private and public? Should it be completely private? Should we have lower taxes? All right, we could debate the merits of all that stuff sometime down the road. And we're going to have to obviously encounter those debates throughout this. But my point is, the stakes are so much higher than any of that at this moment. And if you can't see that right now, I don't know what to tell you. But now is the time for folks to wake up. Now is the time to see what we are dealing with. We're going to speak out as long as we're able to speak out. We will not bend. We will not break. We will not be silenced by the Trump regime, no matter how angry they get at us, no matter how much they try to intimidate or threaten us. But while we are able to speak out, We're going to continue to spread these messages, sound these alarms, and I just hope everybody out there is taking these seriously. If you're able to, share the number one thing you could do. Share these episodes with a friend. Share the MeidasTouch podcast. Tell people to listen. Tell people to check out our Substack at MeidasPlus.com for daily updates of the news. The free independent press right now is the most important thing we have, and it's slipping away minute by minute, day by day. So now's the time to step on the gas. Now is the time to come together. Now is the time to continue to spread the word and continue to grow not just our platform, but all pro-democracy platforms out there, right? We all got to have each other's backs. It's time now for us to act.
I just want to say this too. Just want to add real quick. Thank you. Thank you for the folks who are still here in the chat, listening, watching. Thank you for everything that you're doing. We appreciate you more than you know. Thank you guys for being locked in. Let's keep doing this. We're in this together. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty!
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.